I'm here to tell you a story about a little girl named Alice. This Nada's story is not for the faint of heart. Alice wanted me to tell your story because she can't. It's too hard for her to tell. So I'm here for her. It was a hot summer day in 1970 in a valley in Colorado. 70 to be precise. There was a little baby girl born. Her name was Alice. She had tons of dark hair. They lived in a trailer park. Her father was a reverend. Little Alice was so innocent. Little Alice didn't realize how deep the rabbit hole would go. Time went on, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. She started to notice changes in all of her innocence, instinct. Things she was very confused about. Her reverend father had a mattress on the floor in the living room. Strange he went by reverend when they never went to church. She had an older brother and an elder sister. On this mattress, her father would have her elder sister sleep with him, nude. Everyone in the house was nude. Her mother was in the back bedroom, oblivious. Alice doesn't really remember much of her, at least not at night. One day at 5 years old, Alice was laying on the sofa with her father. She reached around to touch him. He slapped her. Alice was confused. She was like, I thought that's what love was. She thought maybe Daddy would love her as much as her big sister. It's only the beginning of the confusion. Time went on when little Alice grew a little older, not much. She used to play in the little tiny park in the middle of the trailer park. She would climb trees, her and Johnny, her brother. There was an alfalfa field, and they would go on adventures. She had to go over a water trench with wooden slats, skip the boards, because underneath was a big ditch. Alice wasn't scared because she was following Johnny. They made a fort out there, and they would spend their days out there. Her brother Johnny said, Alice, one of these days, I'm going to show you off. He seemed proud of his baby sister. Things were bad. He was severely abused, beaten, and more. One day she remembered taking the chair outside. She would sit in front of the rose bush for hours because she wanted to see it bloom into something beautiful. It didn't. Funny part is that Alice's middle name is Rose, and she bloomed. She waited, she watched, she wondered, and she prayed. One day when Alice was about 7, living in the trailer, her father started beating her brother Johnny in the head badly and raped him. They killed her. They brought her to her knees. The pain was more than she could bear. Alice couldn't take it anymore, and she was just in panties and a t-shirt in winter. She ran outside and ran down the back porch, and her father said, Run, bitch. I'll get you. Alice ran in the back of the trailer. She jumped down, and hid underneath the steps. Shaking, freezing, trying not to cry or make a sound. Then she heard footsteps. She saw footsteps. He jumped down and grabbed Alice. He held Alice and said, I'm so sorry, honey. I love you, Alice. Then he carried her into the trailer and beat her. With all of the trauma Alice used to live next to a cemetery. She used to see it over the fence. After a while, Alice started going in numbers, counting in even numbers. She thought to herself, if she breathed in numbers, mostly 4, then she would die. 1, 2, 3, 4. She didn't die. Every day Alice would look at the cemetery and breathe in 4s. Little Alice wanted to die, praying to God she would die. She lived. Thank God she lived. And the best sad part is that Alice still breathes in numbers. One day when Alice was about 8 or 9, maybe 10, her Reverend Father decided to take her brother, Johnny, to the store. Kind of like a heist. Her father stole a stereo, got caught, and he blamed it on Johnny. He told them he was teaching him a lesson. He was a scapegoat, regardless. Seriously. Johnny was sent off to youth camp detention center. Johnny never came home. She remembers one night she sat in Johnny's room and cried, and every trickle was a trickle of pain. She stared into her big brother's mirror on the wall and looked at herself with dead eyes. Then she took out her knife. It wasn't a big knife, a kid knife, but all the same. She started cutting at her throat, crying. Not profusely, but each trickle of pain, each tear that she cried was another stroke of the knife. It was her healing. It was her pain. Johnny didn't deserve that. Then the Arapaho kids and Deepa. At about 13 or 14, her brother was still in juvie. Her elder sister, bless her heart, she got out. She had a boyfriend, and when she turned 18, she was gone. Gone, 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 gone. I'm proud of that. Alice. Unfortunately, it was Alice's turn. Alice had to sleep on the mattress on the floor with her father, naked. At about 13, 14, then one night Alice was warm. It was summer. So Alice put her leg off onto the side of the mattress to keep cool. Then her father slapped her and pulled her up by the nape of the neck and slapped her again. He started to touch her little Alice baby boobies. Alice freaked out. Her father said, "Fine. You're going to be another Mexican-loving little bitch." Alice ran. Not far. She ran into the shower to wash away all of the pain, wash all the sorrow off, all of the humility. Alice tried to wash all the pain off with water and tears. In retrospect, before Alice's sister left, there was one night when Alice's mother came out of her room and found Alice, his sister, on the mat in a bad way. Her mother got angry and said, "Do you want her to know who her real father is?" Time stood still. Her sister laid on the sofa for days, depressed, wondering why she was abused and raped for so long. Can't blame her. Alice was helpless. One day Alice went to her father's room and got the gun out of her father's drawer. She was going to kill her father. But little Alice didn't know much about guns. Alice kept hearing in her head, "Honor thy mother and thy father." So Alice turned the gun on herself. She put the gun in her mouth, but didn't know I couldn't. One day before all of Alice's sister told the school what was happening, thank God. One day social service came to the trailer. Kids had to wait outside of the trailer. As a little girl, she listened through the door. They asked him if he liked having these kids on his lap in a bad way. She honestly doesn't remember the whole conversation. All she remembers is that he left. They were looking at them like, please save us. They walked away. That's when Alice knew it was hopeless. And we all cried. Another retrospect, Alice needs to put them in order, but it's hard for her, so many memories. One day when Alice was a little girl, she went into her bedroom to get a doll. She just wanted her doll. Her father had one of the neighborhood little girls on her dresser raping her. Alice didn't know what to make of this. It was mind-blowing. She didn't understand. Right before Alice was 14, her father decided that people were starting to find out because, you see, he was never a reverend. He bought a fake license. He used being a reverend as a way to find children. They moved to Arizona in a horrible motel where he would flash children naked. She was so ashamed. One day they got a duplex, and Alice would just sit in her closet rocking herself back and forth. One day she threw clothes over the brick wall, and then he caught her. That was badness. The next day Alice went to school, and she was a mess. So she went to talk to the counselor at school. They took her into the counselor's office, and she told them everything. But she said, don't tell anyone, because they'll kill me. Just tell me how to deal with it. They sent Alice back to class. A few hours later, a detective came, and they called Alice back, and the detective put her in a car and took her away. The amazing part is that he cried all the way. The detective cried all the way. He had such a good heart. He took her to Florence Creighton Shelter, a shelter for problem children. It was sad because she wasn't a problem child. She was a child with problems. When he dropped her off, there were girls sitting on a sofa saying, "You're going to hate it here, bitch, and we'll make sure of that." Detective cried and left. You see, Alice wasn't doing very well there. Not doing well at all, so they sent her to a place called Allison Peterson Shelter, closer to her home. It was a regular house with about 6 girls and a living caretaker. One of the girls hated Alice. She would coax Alice. Basically, she was a bully. Alice had already been through enough. So one night, when Alice got angry, instead of fighting, Alice went out into the backyard picking grapefruit off the trees and lodging them at the house. The counselor actually came out and praised Alice for getting her anger out in that way. One night, movie night, Alice couldn't take it anymore, so she packed up a few clothes she had and threw them over the fence. One of the little girls caught her. She was only 13. Alice was only 14, but she felt much older. The little girl told Alice that if she didn't take her with her, she would tell. So Alice took her along. Bad news. They walked the streets back to Alice's house. Alice said she walked into a park next to the house and sat at a picnic table. Sat apart. On the table was written, Bobcat loves baby Bobcat always and forever. Those were their CB handles when she was a child. Alice was freaked out. They went to the duplex. No one was home. So Alice broke in and went into her bedroom to maybe get a few things. On her bedroom door was a sign that said, Rest in peace. Alice opened the door and there were white sheets over everything. Alice cried and left. It was late that night and Alice and the little girl had nowhere to go, so Alice went by a little boy she knew. He dealt drugs. His parents were shady too, but Alice felt that was her only option. She asked him if they could stay there for the night. He told Alice that they could stay the night and that he would let the other little girl sleep on the floor if Alice had sex with him. Alice cried, but she knew she had to do what she had to protect the little girl. She prostituted herself for the little girl's safety. Alice's soul died once again. The next night, after eating out of garbage cans, Alice took the little girl to the park, to a payphone. Alice called the police and told them where to find the little girl. Alice told her, Stay here. You'll be fine. I'll be right around the corner. It's okay. The police came and took the little girl away, thank God. The next night, Alice was walking with a few other kids in Reed Park. They saw car lights in the distance. Alice knew something was up, so she told them not to run, to just walk normal. Needless to say, in a moment's notice, about 3 cop cars surrounded Alice. One of them put Alice in the cop car. Guess who it was? The same detective that saved her. He said, Alice, do you have any drugs on you? If you do, slip them to me right now, quietly. Alice said, no. He said, I care about you, Alice. Alice said, if you care about me, please let me die. He took her to the police station, where they put her in a padded cell, where she cried and rocked herself once again. He took her back to the shelter, where they strip searched her. A few weeks later, a woman came to visit her at the shelter. She had long strawberry blonde hair, and she sat with her in her bedroom by herself. While Alice rocked herself once again. She was a foster mom, and she wanted her. The other girls tried to scare poor Alice and told her that they know this lady and that she'll steal all your clothes and leave you on the roadside. Alice was petrified, but gave her a chance. The foster mother took Alice to her home, a real home. One evening, Alice was in the kitchen with her, and Alice dropped a plate and broke it. Alice screamed in the corner, crying, rocking herself. It blew the foster mother's mind away. She said, It's just a plate. And that's the evening when it started, the healing. She sat alone with Alice for at least 2 weeks every night in the garage, letting Alice cry and tell her story. She was a godsend. There is so much more to Alice's story. To grab a hold is too deep. In the end, for now, to sum it up for now, Alice's foster mother moved to another state and petitioned the court to let her take Alice with her. It was granted. Alice graduated from high school, cap and gown, and eventually married and had 2 beautiful babies. One day when Alice was in her early 20s, Alice went on a road trip with her husband and child. They went back to the trailer park of darkness just to see. Alice had a panic attack even driving in. Then Alice got out of the vehicle. She walked alone into the same little park where she saw a little girl about 7 or 8 years old. She was about 50 feet away. The little girl was crying alone. Alice knelt down on her knees in the grass, crying, and opened her arms. The little girl ran into Alice's arms, both crying, and with every trickle of tears that Alice shed on the little girl's back, the little girl started to disappear. With every tear, the little girl started to disappear, even more and more, until Alice found herself holding herself. You see, Alice went there to set herself free. But the ghost of herself was Alice's way of coping, of letting go, of healing. And you may wonder, it's hard for Alice to talk about it, so why am I telling her story for her? Because you see, my name is Alice.